Welcome to the Grow Your Practice podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Chad Madden, owner of Madden Physical Therapy and Breakthrough. Join me each week as we dive into the best practices, systems, principles, tips, and tricks to help you grow your private practice. Hey everybody, Chad Madden here with the Grow Your Practice podcast. Today we have a very special guest. I think back for round number 2 here. This is Jimmy McKay. You likely know Jimmy not only from his the PT Pintcast, his famous podcast, but he seems like you have a million irons in the fire, man. Always moving, always doing something. Every time I go on LinkedIn, the very top post is one of your posts that you just put out that morning. I don't know how you do it. So much output, but welcome to the podcast here, Jimmy.
Thanks for having me. I'm never short of words, I guess. So they're either coming out of my fingers on a keyboard or they're coming out of my mouth on a podcast.
Awesome. So let's start there.
Yep.
You have a great, I believe you might have shared the story either in a webinar we had done or in the podcast, but just for our listeners, can you bring them up to speed about your unique career path going from DJ to DPT?
Yeah. I'll go further back. Did the morning announcements in 6th grade, right? Like, hey, today it's going to be pizza, basketball tryouts or this and homecoming this. And I just thought it was cool to stand in a little phone booth sized office in the main office in school and turn a microphone on, and then everybody in my world could hear it, right? And I did that from 6th grade to 12th grade. I was like, this is cool. I was that guy. It was sort of my identity. I was the guy who I got it done. Like, the teachers liked me because they were like, he gets it done. And I think they liked me because they were like, once I realized I knew how to read out loud, I'd stand there for the 15 minutes before the bell rang and I'd sort of go, how can we have fun with this? Full well knowing if you went too far, they're just going to kick you off and then your microphone's gone forever. So it was like, how can we have fun with this but never cross the line? And it's funny because people are always like, well, we need you to think outside the box. That's such a cliche. And I always push back and I go, that's fine. I need you to put me in a box then. So quite literally was like, be funny and out and unique and creative enough to get the attention of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, but don't cross any lines where the teachers are going to go and they're going to throw you out. They're going to reel you in and throw you out. So it was a really cool experiment that no one told me I was able to do, and I think I would just like kind of go a little further, and no one would throw a flag, so that the next day I'd be a little more comfortable and I'd figure my way out. The cool part was too, Chad, the little booth that I did this in off the main office had a window, so I could see all the office ladies. So I couldn't see 99.9% of the people I was talking to. I couldn't see my classmates. But in my brain, in my 11 and 12-year-old brain, if I could make an adult laugh or I could get them to pay attention, I'm on to something. So did that for a number of years, went to school for journalism and communications. My only question really was, does the school have a college radio station? And like, how much extra money do my parents have to pay for me to be on it? And the answer was $0. So I lived at that college radio station. And then I did some internships in New York City. One that either HR never likes me to talk about is I did an internship at WXRK, which is where Howard Stern was before he went to Sirius. And I just got to just hang and just watch, and other people did their own version of the morning announcements on different size scales. And when I graduated, I went up working for my hometown radio station here in the Hudson Valley in upstate New York. And I got to go to work every day and sort of play radio, where you did exactly what I did in that little booth, which is, what are we trying to get people to pay attention to and spend time? And I love those two phrases. I'll draw them on a board to healthcare practitioners now. I'm like, you want people to pay attention, and you want them to spend time with you. Understand those are transactional phrases. And I need you to understand that you have to do something. You have to spend and pay to get their attention and time. It's a transaction. And did that for a number of years. And the only reason I left, I didn't get fired. I didn't do anything bad, Chad. I didn't get the FCC was not mad at me. Is this little device that I'm holding here is a smartphone. I got texted a link, which is normal now, but I got texted a link on the iPhone. It wasn't, what number iPhone, Jimmy? Not just the iPhone. They didn't call it the iPhone 2. It was just iPhone 1, just iPhone. And I remember I clicked the link and I was in Pennsylvania where I ran the radio station. And I was listening to a radio station in LA. And it was like that scene from Inception. My whole world like just went, wait a minute, if I can listen to a radio station from LA, if I can listen to anything anywhere, why would someone listen to me? And now I'm not just competing to be the third coolest guy in Scranton, Pennsylvania on the radio. I've got to be the coolest guy in the world. Like that seemed crazy to me. And the reason I left was not because I didn't think it was a good fight, is people that I talked to in legacy media, traditional media, they didn't have a plan. Yeah. I was in a company that, was the third largest radio company in the country. And I remember walking into a meeting and being like, hey, streaming, what's up with that? How are we going to, and they patted me on the head and they're like, you're 28. Like, relax there, Chicken Little. The sky's not going to fall. And I didn't like that answer. It didn't feel good. So I did the middle-aged dude thing, I think. I went to go to law school. I lasted about 6 weeks in a prep course. And I was like, I don't know what language you're talking, but that's not English. I'm out. I did a year of business school. I didn't hate it, but I was still looking for what business of what. Business school didn't taught me business. Or I don't want to brag. I have 1/3 of an MBA, which doesn't get you anything. But I didn't know the business of what. I was looking for the business of what. And I happened to be like just a weekend warrior triathlete. And one of the guys in the crew was a PT. And I was like, you just talk to people all the time and you tell them stuff and then they get better. They like you. And he was like, yeah. I'm like, that sounds cool. I'll do that. Like I literally decided what I was going to do on a bike ride and then went to PT school and like thought I was going to either work at a clinic or run a clinic. And this is 2015. And podcasting, you had to explain what a podcast was. Yeah. And then why you should listen to yours. Now you don't have to do that. But I literally had to be like, it's like a radio show that you download. You can listen to whenever. But it's about these super niche things. And I launched one as a student, sort of as a goof. And most podcasts, not this one, of course, but most, the host is like, man, we're going to get into some really cool stuff. I can't wait. Look how much we know and we're going to share it. I was like, I'm a student. I don't know anything. But look, I got Chad here. Chad's going to explain this. And hey, give me 27 minutes and we're both going to get smarter. I think the only reason it was successful and lasted is I just liked learning stuff from smart people. It might be shoulders or business or marketing or psychology. It was just a really easy and fast way to talk to people. And then I just keep doing that. Lather, rinse, repeat.
Nice. Yeah. As I think I shared with you privately, you're a genius at what you're able to extract from people in terms of a valuable conversation that's everybody can benefit from. So yeah, man, that is definitely your genius. Love that you're doing that. Quick question for you. Yeah. This would be a huge miss if I didn't ask. There was likely a time in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade where you did get it right to the limit. You towed the line in terms of, was there anything there, or do you remember where you like made all the office ladies laugh? Felt really good.
I started bringing my friends into the booth because now my friends were like, that's funny.
Yeah.
And we'd riff, when you're 8th, 7th, and 8th grade, you start thinking stuff. So we started doing this thing where it was called we started doing skits. And they were like, okay, but like, remember, as long as it fits in this box of like time, like just don't go over. So don't be rude and don't go over this time. So we started doing this bit called Ask Dr. Science, where I was like the straight guy. I was like hey, and today we have Dr. Science, and like my buddy would be Dr. Science. And we started out like being really funny, like a little Monty Python vibe.
Nice.
But then we started to sort of weaponize it because we realized we could call out, we'd be like, little Dave in room 301 asks, and it's like our friend Dave, and we're going to rip on him. And then we're like, we could do this to people we don't like. And they were like, hey, listen, like, don't be doing that. So that was like the slap on the wrist, get back in the box, be creative, but not mean. So yeah, of course you're going to take it too far. You're 13.
I would have been very disappointed if you would have been straight laced the whole way through.
No, we couldn't. And then the next level is when you could drop an innuendo that the kids would get, but the adults wouldn't.
Oh, brutal.
But then there's always like the 24-year-old teacher who's like, I know what that means. They don't know what it means, but I know what it means.
Yeah, that's great.
But that's life, right? Like that's what you're going to do.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So a couple of things I want to get into. The most recent thing that I saw that you had posted, one of the 17 articles I think that you posted today on LinkedIn, but you had the sorting hat. So,
Yeah.
and you talked about, that we are going from a professional degree, right, as the DPT, over to a graduate degree. And that has some pretty rough ramifications on the amount of student loan money available. And we all know, the cost of education has 3x'd in the last 26 years.
Wild.
I've had two DPTs that are graduating here this month that I've interviewed this spring that both are graduating with over 200K in student loans. So pretty rough run for our industry. And at the same time, I think the greatest disparity between cost of education, cost of degree, and earning power within healthcare is physical therapy.
Ugh.
So talk with me about what you see happening. What maybe you can give a quick update on what exactly is in what's it called? Big Beautiful Bill, right? Yeah. And how that has affected us and what you think college and universities are going to do.
All right. So here's how I approach pretty much everything I have a degree in journalism, ... and mass communications. So yeah, I ran a radio station, but I do try to approach most of the things I say in a non-inflammatory way. And I do know that there are smarter people than me economically, I'm not in academics. I'm not in private. I'm not in any of these things. My goal is to have a conversation. My goal in communications is to achieve understanding. I don't want you to do what I say or believe what I believe. I just want you to understand the facts. So that's the good part is right now, like being in the media, not the greatest thing in the world, right? The media is like under fire, but like the way I look at it is like this like universal church of truth, which is like just the facts, right? So here's what we know. We changed the degree classification. So now the borrowing power for students is now below the level they need to actually borrow the full amount to go to PT school. Some people will say this is good. I will neither say this is good nor bad, but we need to know what it's going to do. So right now, for people in school, they're sort of grandfather claused in. They can still borrow what they need to get out of school. From what I understand, to get into school, these new limits now apply. So I sat around thinking, well, what does this do? Well, you can get private loans. As someone pointed out in my comment section on LinkedIn today, private loans, interest rates are even higher or can be even higher. You would also have people say, and with good authority, that maybe they shouldn't be going to school. Maybe this is the fork in the road that actually causes the change. So I try to look at this from, I'm a people guy, right? Communications, journalism, it's all about the characters and the stories. The academics out there, the people actually teaching, when tuition goes up, they're not getting giant raises. I hang out with these people, right? They're not rooting for things going up. The students sure aren't. Clinic owners seem pretty removed from this, but they're not, because they have to now hear from these students. And now they're trying to think, how do I hire and retain them when those students are going home every night and looking at that balance? So this issue might seem like a student or an academic thing, but it touches the entire profession. So where's this going? I'm doing what everybody else, and we'll get into AI, but of course I run a ChatGPT and I go, how does this play out? So I made it do, and I didn't know what this term was before yesterday, a Monte Carlo experiment, which essentially is like run the roulette ball and how many times does it land on this? And the thing that surprised me was schools lower tuition 16% of those 10,000 Monte Carlo experiments. Eventually, if nothing changes, I think schools would lower tuition, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. So I think the biggest group of people this affects, students immediately, who are going to choose something else, because the smart ones will look at this and be like, this is not viable. I mean, even if they could borrow this money, even if this was changed, would you advocate for a student borrowing 200 grand for a PT degree where your starting salary is going to be less than half of that? It's difficult with a straight face for me to advocate that. So it's going to affect current students, future students, universities, private practices. pretty much. And then eventually, oh yeah, who am I leaving out? Oh, patients.
Yeah.
People that we all signed up to help. So I look at these things, and when I interview people about them, part of it is for me to learn what we're talking about and get a picture of this. But this money touches everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll share one probability that I've heard somebody else talk about outside of private practice altogether. So not in healthcare in any way, but they were talking about education. And this is kind of at a time when Harvard was coming under fire for some of the moves that they had made a year or two ago. And this was people in the tech space, and what they started referring to is like education is ripe for disruption. So, unquestioned, basically, in 2007, 2008, when the federal government took over the Freddie and Fannies of the world, what they did is dramatically increase the borrowing limits, right? And that, oddly, there's a direct correlation, and there's a million studies out there on this. The cost of education rose in under 12 months every time that they would increase the lending, that the cost of education
Of
rose.
course.
And they were like, there's so much more. And I think in 17 years through 2025, we only had 56% collective inflation, something like that. But education had nearly 2.5x during that time. Yeah. So brutal. And what they had talked about is that somebody's going to come in, they're going to solve this problem. They're going to make it much more efficient. Yep. Right now we have Zoom, right? 6 years ago, nobody was talking about Zoom or Skype or anything like that.
Well, it was impossible 6 years ago. Telehealth and teleeducation were impossible 6 years ago.
Exactly. So now we have, everybody with an iPhone or a MacBook or whatever it is, we have cameras. There's so many other ways we can learn today that are much more efficient. So that was kind of their proposal, that they think there's a solution on the other end of this hardship. What are your thoughts on that?
So the only hitch in that giddy up is accreditation.
Yep.
Right? Because right now the universities all come together and they say, well, yeah. Because, all right, so if it was only about knowing the stuff, Chad and Jimmy could put on ski masks and sneak into a school at night and take all the books and then run out and then put all the books on the internet and say, look, you're educated. Poof. But of course, that's not it. It's the accreditation. And I'm not poo-pooing education. The academics don't light my house on fire. It's more than that. But that's the hitch in the giddy up, is even if we went rogue and we went 3 miles off the coast of the US into international waters and we taught everything with the best instructors in person, whatever we wanted to do, and the cost was zero, it's not accredited, so you can't do the thing. We've had discussions we do a live stream twice a week. We've had discussions where Tony Maritato, who hosts a live stream, he's a weird thinker too, in a good way.
Yeah.
Where he said, who does the license protect? Like, the license says you can bill insurance, right? That's like the thing. That's the license to drive the highway of being a PT. But if you were a PT for 25 years and you're brilliant and you gave up your license and just said, you come here, you pay me whatever I think and whatever we both think it is worth.
Yep.
I still know all this stuff. I'm just unlicensed.
Yep.
How does that change the exchange of value? It doesn't. So there's a whole industrial complex built around not just the education and the cost, but also who has the Pope's blessing of being accredited.
Yeah. Yep. Any other thoughts on that one?
No, but the last thing I'll say is everybody who discusses this, because then of course the APTA gets dragged into this as well. Well, the APTA should do this. The APTA should do that. I'll go back to communication. When one side of the argument or one person is talking to you or typing to you most of the time, keyboard cowboy, is typing to you, if they're typing logically and you're answering emotionally, you're only going to go round and round in circles. Yeah. I tend to try my best to find the truth in what someone else is saying. Like when someone says, well, good, this will stick it to big education, it'll force them to lower costs. And I go, I hope you're right, but in the time it takes to do that, what are we losing? And who's we? There's so many we's involved in this. Yeah. So I just sort of caution people by when I speak logically and you speak emotionally, both of us might necessarily be right. I see people do this all the time, especially when the comment threads go long. But when I see an article with 79 comments, I'm like, oh, this will be good. And here it's either everybody agreeing and just piling on like a yay parade, or it's back and forth when one person is bringing logic to the table and the other person is, and the argument comes up a lot with like value of APTA membership. It's valuable if you value it. I was in a room full of PT students in New Jersey, and it was an APTA New Jersey event. And the student asked a question: would you recommend me being a member of APTA right out of school? And of course, 9 people from APTA New Jersey are next to me. And they're like, yes, 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 yes. And I, of course, raised my hand. Can I answer? And they go, yeah. And I go, I don't think you should. And the room gets like, why did we invite this guy? And then I said, and then of course I waited long enough for it to get uncomfortable. And I said, unless you know what you're looking for. Because if you just show up and you don't know what you're looking for, you're going to think this is worthless. But if you stop and do a self-assessment and go, I'm looking for these 3 things, now go to the website or now go to an event and go, are any of these 3 things here? If they're not, don't join.
Yeah.
And the APTA won't want you to join because they're only going to lose. They're only going to lose there. But if you can find 2 or 3 or 1 out of then you should join. But that was my unconventional way of getting to the emotion of what he was asking. Yeah. Instead of just saying, of course you should. Why? It's your civic duty. No, it's not. It needs to be valuable, and it should be, and it is if it has what you're looking for. What are you looking for? That's on you.
Yeah. That was your Dr. Science moment, and
that was my Ask Dr. Science moment. Had to earn your attention quick. The normal answer would be, of course you should. It's your duty. No.
Yeah. Love it. I'll share some other information with you. This year, and I haven't shared this here before, I emailed all 27 heads of department of Pennsylvania accredited DPT programs.
Wow.
For those that I spoke with, I asked, this is what's happening in education, student loans. What is the plan to remedy that? I had one good answer.
How many answered?
I'm going to guess 19.
Okay, and you had one good answer. Okay.
Good answer. Yeah,
what was the answer?
The answer was a network that matches, I think it's called the Scholars Network. I was just on with the founder of the company, but they match employer scholarship and loan repayment with top of the class DPTs. So we're trying to figure out, it's popular in some hospital systems in the PT world. We're trying to figure out how to cross that over into private practice because our margins are smaller.
Sure.
So like in central Pennsylvania, for example, I know if you came to see me in my clinic where I'm at right now, $93 on average for a private pay insurance. If it's across the street, if you come see me across the street, it's $312 from the same payer. That's not a charge. How can I compete?
Can't.
$20,000 sign-on bonus or guaranteed raises every year for the next 10 years. I can't do that. So we're in conversations right now with that Scholars Network around how we can mitigate that. That was the only thing that I heard. That was the only
came from them. That came from the person
from head of department in academia.
Yeah,
who's been on the podcast before, and he was very prepared for
the question I always ask people, because I get brought into weird projects, and I'm sure you do too. Which is, and I always like to ask this question, which sounds like I'm being sort of annoying, but is what are we solving for here?
Yeah,
and people a lot of times are like, what do you mean? Of course, we're solving this, and I'm like, but what are we solving for? So like education is like, depends on where you are in education. Is your job to get students in? Well, that's recruitment. It's your job to educate while you're there. Good. That's academics. Who's overseeing these different things? Most of the time, the people teaching the classes are not setting tuition. They're never in that conversation. They're not at that altitude. But the people who are at that altitude are usually never seeing the result of those things or solving for them because they don't have to solve for that. That's not what they're solving for.
Yeah.
And that's sad. God, 3-1, man. How do you compete? You can't compete with 3-1.
I have to find somebody that wants to be an outpatient and most of us became DPTs because we wanted to help people.
Sure.
right? And that still has that and isn't burdened by a heavy student loan. I know that if I'm talking with somebody, I think the APTA put out last year, national average for graduating DPTs in 2025 was 142.
Oh yeah, that tracks.
Something like that.
Yeah,
And,
that was me 10 years ago.
yeah. So, and I mean, there's a lot of disconnects. Financial literacy, I believe, is
Huge
poor today compared to 25 years ago. So they're not really it's not being taught. So now that student is walking out, if they have 200K at 10%, which is what I've heard, 11.8, I think is somebody who just had through. So that's a $20,000 interest payment for their life. I mean, it's a mortgage with no house.
Correct.
So yes, we can't compete, and that person is going to go elsewhere. So we have a very upfront conversation. If you want to help people, if you're willing to sacrifice and build towards the future, if you want to be a clinical director one day, et cetera, be more valuable, we have that pathway for you. But if you're looking for a paycheck today because you have to make that first loan payment, and that's what you need to do, then go to the hospital system right now. I'll make a phone call for you.
I work for several, or volunteer my time for several organizations, and they're saying, and the phrase "these kids today" will always come up, right? It has always come up, and 25 years from now, these kids today will be saying "these kids today." Always come up. Why can't they be? If it's fundraising, a lot of times it's a fundraising event, and I'm sort of the person in the room going, if the choice is between helping you in your fundraising event and rent or food, which one would you tell them to do? Because it's not, they're not joking when they say it ain't there.
Yeah.
So right now it's the student's problem, and it's going to be whoever's graduating for the next however long they have to pay that back. But eventually it's going to be, and you're already seeing it with private practitioners, it's their problem too, and that sucks.
Yeah, and it does limit access to care. I know you had that in the
all
article.
those things.
Well, that's the trickle down effect will be there. Right. All right. So I know we have a couple other topics we want to get into. You talk about value as the through thread in just about everything that I've heard or read from you.
Yeah.
I would love, before we hopped on here, you shared the story with Bain and the value pyramid. If you could, the B2C value pyramid.
Yep.
If you could talk about just like give us a brief overview of what value is and how you think about that and how you help other DPTs deliver that.
Yep.
And what you see in the marketplace, that would be fantastic for everybody.
So first of all, Bain & Company is a big consulting firm, and they're internationally known. They're one of the big 5. I don't know. And if you would like to take something of value, literally go to Google, type in the letter B, the number 2, the letter C, value pyramid, and you'll get this. And it looks like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There's a pyramid. There are 30 elements of value. Should know this answer because I've taught it before. And essentially, it builds just like Maslow's. It goes from functional value, emotional value, life-changing value, and social impact. And then whenever I give this presentation to healthcare providers, I say, what you do is valuable. And they say yes. And then I'll show the pyramid, the different elements. Think of it as, and I love talking to healthcare people too, because we all took chemistry. I got through chemistry, barely. And I said, this is the periodic table of value. If it's not on this chart, it's not a thing. It does not exist in our known world. And then we'll go through several of them. And then I'll quiz them and say, hey, pop quiz, according to Bain & Company, one product is the winner, has the most value. What it means is it touches the most elements. It's like the thing that has the most things from the periodic table in it. Can you guess what that is? And people are like, usually stumped or whatever. And then, of course, when I say, I'm pretty sure 95+% of you have one in your pocket now. And that's when everybody, ha, ha, ha. Right, it's the cell phone. And then you go through what these elements are. And then we try to deconstruct the value of when we charge someone for a unit of time. And I'm like, that ain't the value. That's not the value. It's not the length of time. Because actually, in my former profession, in journalism, if I could convey an amazing idea or win your attention in 100 words or in 60 seconds, I'm more valuable than the person who needed 1,000 or 10,000 words or 2 hours to do it.
Yeah.
So that's when I bring back understanding what value you provide. Going back to that sentence a topic ago, what are we actually solving for here? And I think we mentioned before, someone asked me, is this actual value or perceived value? And I was like, oh, say that again so everybody in the room can hear. And they're like, is it actual value or perceived value? And that's when I said, it's all perceived value.
Yeah.
Which sounds like we're selling snake oil, but you're not. So I'll give some examples. American Airlines, or Spirit Airlines, but they don't exist anymore as of yesterday. American Airlines doesn't sell a seat. It doesn't sell runways. It doesn't sell terminals. It sells the beach, if that's where you want to go. And they understand that in their marketing. All it is trying to communicate value. And I'll tell you where healthcare providers get it wrong. And hopefully the people that are listening won't get it wrong there. They try to communicate the feeling, the sight, the sound, the smell, the taste of what you want to do and where you want to go. Tesla has values different than American Airlines, and they're trying to communicate those to you. Well, which one's better? Whichever one you feel is better for you. You have to decide that, right? So what's better for Chad is going to be different than what's better for me. So we have to decide and understand who we're speaking to about that value. And then the next twist, the conversion factor, is we think we're logical animals. We're not. We are big, dumb, emotional beings. And I can say that because I am a big, dumb, emotional being. We make emotional decisions and then we try to backfill it with logic. I'll give 2 examples. With females, for some reason, it might be easier for me to see with females because I'm a guy and I can't see my own faults. Easier for me to see faults of females. For some reason, when one female compliments another female's dress, I love your dress. Without even thinking, snap judgment, response comes, I got it on sale, it has pockets. For some reason, they need to defend, they feel the need anyway, to defend their emotional decision to buy that dress. Hey, why'd you buy that dress? I liked it. Maybe made me look pretty. Okay, great. That's enough. But for some reason, we feel the need to make a logical story. Hey, Jimmy, why'd you buy that tool? Right? Got me a new Milwaukee drill. I'm like, well, so it's great. Here's the thing. Listen, I'm going to use it 6 times. It's going to pay for itself. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I rent it. You know, I was taught if you rent it twice, you might as well buy it. It's going to be better. So, or I like what I can do with that tool, but for some reason, the emotional story, we don't want to touch that, which is why in marketing, especially with healthcare or even on LinkedIn, I love this one too. I'm sure you've seen this. Someone works for 6 to 9 months on a paper, then publishes it, and then they just publish a screenshot, and I can't read it because it's in 4 font on LinkedIn. And they're just like, look, I proved something. Here it is. Read all these words and you'll come to the same conclusion. And nobody reads it. Just put 9. I've given this talk to academics. You just put 9 months, I don't know, worth of work into something, of writing this and getting it published and reviewed and edited in the whole 9. And you spent 45 seconds posting it on LinkedIn. And that was your plan on how you were going to have it impact the profession. All on the front, none on the back. So I think this value pyramid highlights, and if you go and look at it, this is going to be different for every practitioner, every practice, every person. What value does someone get from their interaction with you? That's all we sell. We don't sell shockwave. We don't sell manual therapy. We don't sell therapeutic activity. That is the tool and how we get there. But when you start talking in terms of value, in the way the audience talks in their words, when I was in 7th grade, my audience was 7th graders, and I knew how to make them giggle and laugh. The secondary audience was the faculty. If I could hit both, I was a winner. But for some reason, we default to logic only because we're a doctoring profession. That's what we do. And that falls on deaf ears, and we're confused by it. There are even studies on this that we read, agree with, understand, and don't use. And I am still confused by this. But you have a background in marketing. You see what works. Here's the cool part about marketing. It's a science, but you can measure it.
Right on. Lot to deconstruct there. So for all the listeners, I found the Bain & Company image. I'll put that in the show notes, the link for that, so everybody has a reference. A couple other things stood out. One is the one thought that has always stuck with me, Jimmy, is we spend split seconds making a decision and the rest of our lives defending it. That very much falls in line with the dress example that you mentioned. Yeah.
Or the reverse. We spend a split second making a decision, the rest of our life defending it, or we do so much work figuring something out and spend a fraction of the time on the effort into communicating the value, and we're confused when no one shows up.
Yeah.
We're confused by that.
The really good lesson for me in value early on. And when I opened up, I had no idea like business math or just like how to think through value and marketing positioning of our products and services. My brother-in-law, it had to be like Thanksgiving or it was a birthday party or something like that. And he could not move. So I think it was his back, if I remember correctly. So he was struggling a lot. I said, hey man, I have a treatment table right here. I'm going to take a look at you. And he was like hemming and hawing, would not come in for an appointment or anything like that. And I said, why don't I just take a look at you and treat you right here? We were in that room for 10 minutes. He has a labor intensive job, right? So like if he can't move, he can't earn money for his family. And I went through like all my normal questioning, what's your pain stopping from doing all this other stuff. And none of it was getting through. We went into my office for 10 minutes. I did what I would typically do, like an abbreviated treatment session, primarily manual therapy. And we walked out and he was like, I can't believe that. Like, why did I struggle with this for so long? And I said, just out of curiosity, 15 minutes ago, I couldn't get you to call my office and make an appointment. But now like you're talking about this in front of everybody. What's that worth to you? And what do you think just wild number. He said, I would pay $500 for that.
Right.
And I was like, are you serious?
Yeah.
And I mean, we're super cool, really good friends, everything else. But it was just one of those things. I was like, I am looking at this the wrong way, where I'm thinking about billable hours, like almost, like most service professionals do, attorneys, et cetera. Yep. And I need to be thinking about this as the value is going from where I'm at today, getting back to normal and doing what I could do before.
What does it open up? If I could, I think the limitations are the type of person who becomes a PT or in healthcare in general.
Yeah.
And we don't sell a tangible thing most of the time, right? We sell experience. You could look at parallel professions like food service. It's a good one. It's close, but there's still a tangible thing they provide you, right? They put a plate down with food on it and that food's gone. It's in my belly and I'm good, or drinks, or the experience. Ours is an experience where they go, couldn't I just, and I'll say, well, why haven't you?
Yeah.
Right? I could just climb to the top of Mount Everest. Right? I think I need a permit, but like, why do I hire the Sherpa? It's like, because I understand it's worth my time and effort to fly to Nepal, to get all the gear, to get the permit. I might as well hire someone who understands like where to step and where not to step.
Yeah.
Because the stakes are high there. And if you have a labor intensive job and you getting back to that, if you have a race you've been working on for 9 months and it's in a week, what's that worth to you? So I don't know. I always try to say the fault is on us, because if we don't communicate it well, the fault is on us. People all the time, APTA needs to communicate our value better. And I'm going, I'm real sorry. APTA is a professional association. It is where professionals associate. Now, they might do some external stuff, which is great, but it's on you. There's too much for people to be able to communicate. So learn how to communicate, right? People advocate for business education in PT school. I think that's great. We've done free. You know how many people chimed in on that LinkedIn post when I said, I'll put these 32 experts and each do a half-hour course. Everybody's like, I'd take that. Chad, I put it up. Pretty good reaction the first week. Afterwards,
Crazy.
It's all right.
Right.
Because people will seek out what they value.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just, we're big, dumb, emotional animals, and we have a backstory with logic.
Cool. I want to move on to AI.
Yeah.
A lot of conversations about that. Almost every company has pivoted to now they're an AI company. I think I even saw there's a shoe company that just, Allbirds.
Okay.
A week or two ago, the CEO came out and said, we make shoes that everybody knows us for. Now we're an AI company. I was like, what is going on here? So can you talk about that? Can you talk about like what you see within our industry and maybe a little bit of where the puck might be going with
Yeah.
AI?
I think I'm now at the age where I've lived long enough to watch things come and completely change everything. And you understand that it's never going to be as good as everybody says, and it's never going to be as bad as everybody says. Doesn't mean it's going to be a little bit of good, a little bit of bad. Every time I feel like I have my brain wrapped around AI, something changes or someone uses it a different way, and all of a sudden I feel like I go back to square one. If some of the things were true that these AI companies were saying, I feel like we'd see some of these results. Like the quick layup is using it as a scribe, right? Take some of the lowest hanging pain points and point this AI cannon toward it and say, solve this and save my clinician 32 minutes per interaction, per patient, per day, and that will completely alleviate that. I don't know that I've heard good results. Like people are happy about these things, and then of course the monetary goes well. If the note's cleaner, the billing to insurance and the revenue cycle is going to be cleaner, and that means more money, and that means more money in the practice. All these things have been true. I don't think they've been true to the scale that everybody said it was going to be when these tools first started to come out. I use it in different ways. I don't think it's done iterating. I think this is the largest technological jump we've had in my lifetime. And I've seen, these things pop up in the internet. This one looks a little bit steeper and faster and more accessible too, right? Like cost wise, it was hard to get these for a couple of years until mass production brought it down, or the internet was open to everybody, but it didn't have anything there yet until we caught up. This technological jump was faster, deeper, and wider than everything. So where will it go? Again, the minute I feel like I have my head wrapped around it, the puck just moves.
Yeah, very similar to what you and I had, the private conversation. I can do a lot more in a shorter period of time, just like the AI scribe, right? Like now I get to leave at 7 p.m. rather than stay for an extra 30 minutes, 45 minutes, catch up on notes, whatever that is. That is better. But most entrepreneurs, and I had my own experience with this, and then Carl validated it in the tech world. Everybody will say, I'm more productive now. I'm 10 times more productive. Okay, did you 10x your revenue?
No.
And
I'm still working the same amount of time. Well, there might be some time savings, but what do you do with that extra half hour? You probably do something else.
Yeah. So now is the margin 10x? No. Nothing. None. That hasn't really hit the business math portion of the equation yet. But
right.
Yeah, it's fun. And like you said, an iPhone, where we paying back in 2008 $1,000 for an iPhone. I mean, I can get top tier Chat GPT for $20 a month, which I just canceled, by the way, because I'm using a ton of other tools. But I mean, max that we're paying anywhere is $20 a month, and I think I might have one that's like the $100 tier. But
the guy that I think will have one of the guys that I think will have a really good handle on a conversation like this is Larry Benz, who we were talking about.
Yep.
Because we were talking about efficiency. He does these articles on something that looks like a boring topic, and then when you read it, you're like, oh, what I thought that was, it isn't. We were talking about efficiency. Well, if I can be efficient, if I have 13 patients scheduled and I see 13 patients and everyone is exactly on time, then everything goes up into the right from there. And he's like, but that's not true. And it hasn't been true for 40 years. So what actually is the limiting factor? Also, let's say everything about AI was true. Let's just go into that hypothetical. The ceiling just rose on what Jimmy and Chad can accomplish. Well, the floor just rose too on what everybody can accomplish, right? I go back to media, which was, if you wanted to sell cars in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Jimmy's radio station was one of 3 choices, or our company was one of 3 choices. Well, now we democratized communication. As long as you have a phone and a half hour, you can have a podcast. Well, now there are 10 million podcasts. So now instead of, well, I got to pay a lot to be on one of the 3 radio stations in Scranton, that's the limiting factor. Now it's, I can do whatever I want. Problem is now you're one voice in a sea of 10 million instead of having to pay to be one voice on 3 in a market. It's just taking the difficulties, and now the difficulties flatter. It used to be tall. You had to pay to be on these 3 media channels. Like, watching Dom Draper and Mad Men, you could roll into New York City and for $200,000 back in the day, you're the only hair care product that everybody knows and talks about, and you own the market. That's not the case anymore. You've got to earn it. You've got to pay attention and spend time. The equation's still there. It's just different. It's just different kinds of push-ups.
Yeah. We didn't prepare for this part, but I've struggled with this recently around AI. So easier, again, with output, whether it's creating the podcast, and I'll just throw out there, most podcasts don't make it 6 episodes. And I think you just said,
I think it's like 6 to 9 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they die off pretty quick, but because there's work involved.
Yep.
Last year I reread Zen and the Art of Motorcycle
Maintenance. Yeah.
Yeah. And the entire book is around like a focus on quality, and it's worthwhile, just like you're saying with, pay attention, spend time. It's very true in our work as well. And I just find that if I don't touch something, like whether it's written, like it is very apparent when something is created.
Oh yeah.
Through automation, like it loses a little bit of that quality. Is that important to you? And how do you think about that? And because you're mass producing quite a bit,
right?
You're a busy guy. Your output is through the roof. But how do you think about that in terms of differentiation?
Yeah.
You just started getting into it.
It's a great question. I try to use it to make things simple and not complex.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't ask it to listen to me and write a book, because that would be taking a few ramblings and making it bigger and more complex. What I try to do, if you and I we're close to being done with this episode, when we're done in 10 minutes, if I have a friend say, "Oh, you're on a podcast? What was it about?" You know what I'm going to say in 10 minutes from now? I'm going to say, "I have no idea what we just said." I'll be able to hit the beats.
Yeah.
But the cool part about it is how I'll use AI, or how you might with this use case would be, hey, find me a few gems in there. Because right now, this episode for us as we're recording is going by at 60 miles an hour.
Yep.
Every once, for me, that's why I talk so much, is I don't have a lot of gems. So I got to get a lot of words out because I don't know where the gems are. But it's good at simplifying in terms of that. What I don't like to do is, I don't like you to tell me what to say.
Yep.
That would be making the simple complex. So that's why I actually do less editing. There's a lot of AI editing tools that I could use. I edit very little now. Like for me, it's just like, find the moment that we're going to share with this, take the incoherent ramblings that Jimmy's doing, right? Because we touched on like 5 topics. But what does the algorithm need to see to put this in front of the right people that they can make a decision if they listen or watch this or not? So I try to use it as a simplification. When you try to go the other way, it drips of, that's where the term I think slop comes in. It's like, oh, you were trying to take this and make it complex. It doesn't, I think it works better the other way, which is take all this data from our revenue and break it down. What am I not seeing? What do I need to see? I think it's good at one way, but not the other. Because I think people think we're trained to spot this stuff now. I mean, little kids, I was hanging out with 7-year-olds. That's AI. How do you know? Like, look at this and that. I'm like, shoot, I think the kid's right.
Yeah. Love it. Jimmy, what's the best way for our listeners to follow you, find your podcast, et cetera?
Yeah. I got on early and I explained, honestly, my biggest mistake was calling it PT Pintcast. We used to go to the bar next to PT school and have a drink. That's where I actually was able to go to my classmates. Hey, what did we just learn? And then walk me through slowly. And that's where I learned. So it came out. So we called it Pintcast because I was like, listen, this is how I'm learning. But it's PT Pintcast across all the channels in the same website.
Love it. This was great. One more question for you. Most influential book you've ever read in your career?
Oh, man. Because I feel like I'm going to be judged by this. I read very few books twice. And this one I not only read, but I have little notes. But it is How to Split the Difference, Negotiate Like Your Life Depends on It. It's not really about negotiating. It's about communicating, which is actually what negotiating is. And it's also the way it's written. Every chapter starts off with a story about here I was at this bank robbery gone wrong or whatever. And it's a communication book at the very, very bottom. That when it's boiled down, that's what it is. It's a communication book. Chris Voss.
Chris Voss, absolutely amazing. Also, an excellent masterclass.
Oh yeah.
The first one is great. The second one that he did, I have no idea what he was thinking.
And you've got this voice, and he knows how to tell you.
Late night radio DJ, is that what it's called?
Late night radio DJ. But how do you expect me to do that? I'm like, I don't know. Also, like off aside, I mean, just a guy who can command a stage too. If you've a chance to watch him speak, like he knows what he knows his skill, and he's able to communicate it 100 different ways. That's a skill that I think a lot of healthcare people, if you were going to put your money into a Con Ed course, okay. But if you never improve your communication, I think you're doing your business, and your patients a disservice.
Yeah, I'll back you up on that one. It was one of the best books I ever read and dramatically changed my business trajectory. So,
yep.
Well done. Thanks for doing this, Jimmy.
Appreciate it.